Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to HIMediaTV. I'm your host of HIMediaTV, and today I want to talk to you, dear viewer, about the title of this video, about why there will not be another Duke Nukem. So, without getting into the extracurriculars, that was the boondoggle known as Duke Nukem Forever and the frankly lack quality that came with it. I'm gonna be frank here and say let's just pretend Duke Nukem Forever doesn't exist here. Because Duke Nukem Forever was such a monumental failure that it effectively killed realistically any hope for something being done with the IP to be done again. Let alone kind of what I wanted to get into by and large with this video. Duke Nukem as a IP doesn't really fit in the modern age. And I'm not even necessarily saying because of the hyper macho misogyny, it's like macho man attitude of it. Contrary to what, a lot of folks might think, despite me being a left winger, I do think that those kind of archetypes and characters can't exist in today's day and age. The big problem is the movies that, and this kind of goes to why Shadow Warrior 2, and I'll touch on that here in a second. The concept of like an over-the-top broy badass movie, like your Die Hards and things like that, or things of that nature. Those have already like the idea of lampooning those. Everybody knows they're schlock at this point. People grow up knowing these movies are schlocky. There's nothing wrong with it. These schlocky type of action movies are standard and they're a standard part of people's media consumption, and nobody is surprised by it. There's no need to sort of like lampoon these anymore because a big part of satire is critique, right? A big part of satirizing things is not just making light of it or making a joke. It's also to on some level critique these things. Ask the Onion, Babylon Bee. These are examples of right and both left and right wing outlets that are satirical and they literally lampoon stuff. The kind of archetype that Duke Nukem is supposed to be this lampooning of like this uber macho masculinity type of person, right? And by and large, a lot of people in today's day and age, whether you think this is a good thing or a bad thing, I personally think it's a good thing. You might think it's a bad thing, but that's not the conversation we're having here. A lot of like the consensus in society today is guys like that are kind of weird and losers. You might disagree with me on that. That's fine. I'm not fighting you on that. But, the idea that a guy like that is the one pulling all the women and being like the main character in a story, that's not even if we just take just the media take of it and like what depictions of what we see in media, that's not particularly the case anymore. Shadow Warrior was a lampooning of, schlocky 80s kung fu movies and, all of the weird shenanigan BS that came with that. Also was like not particularly kosher, but you know what? Ultimately, at the end of the day, the people that took Shadow Warrior, the IP, made 3 banger games, personally. So I haven't gotten a chance to. I've seen some great stuff from the third. I haven't had a chance to play it. I need to finish the second one, and then I'm going to go on to the third one. But that is a great way to rehabilitate a trilogy, primarily by kind of like taking a lot of the like you know giving it an identity outside of like stereotypical 80s kung fu movies and naming and like oriental dick jokes. I'm just saying. Regardless, the point is that when it comes to Duke Nukem, I can't really see how you can Shadow Warrior it. I mean, you can definitely still lampoon and play up the fact that he is, big macho, you know, guy. They could probably maybe take a Johnny Bravo stance to it, which I think could be interesting, but it's not really Duke, if we're being honest. I just because we are kind of existing in an environment where the only other thing I can think Duke Nukem could really provide at this point is gameplay. But the gameplay options that Duke Nukem could provide, like the silly, sort of what does, what can a Duke Nukem game provide that you're not going to get from Doom, Doom Eternal, or Doom Dark Ages? And you're also not going to get from Shadow Warrior 1, 2, or 3. Or any other smattering of really solid, elevated boomer shooter type of games that have been, like remade for the modern age. I think Duke Nukem has a lot of whimsy, and the ability to a lot of interactive aspects of the environment, being able to play games, interacting with PCs, like the funny aspect of like going into a strip club and like handing a stripper some money and her flashing you, like just like things like that. Like there's a whimsy aspect of each Duke Nukem level and world that is not present in the theming of even with Shadow War, even with the modern Shadow Warriors being as goofy as they are, it's not the same. I feel like here's the thing, right? Um, if they got rid of the, impregnation alien bit and they sort of, took a, modern id software approach to level design, I think if they decided to take something like Forever, even with like a lot of the, socio, political, like the politically incorrect aspects of it, which honestly, for a fun, rompy Duke Nukem game, I'm kind of indifferent on. Let's be real. They could do it. It's just I to be able to put out a Duke Nukem game even after Forever, I think they would have to focus on whimsy. I think they would have to focus on humor. I think they would need to sort of like play up the lampoonization. They need all of the dumb action movie one-liners. They're you know I don't want to see. They can't really. I feel like for it to work, they can't really do the thing they do with uh, the new Doom games, where you know see the Doomslayer a lot. Like you know, the Doomslayer is seen and not heard. Lo Wang in the Shadow Warrior games is heard but not seen. That's also a difficult balance because you know, outside of like making some girls squeal or like some, panting general coming up saying, "Save us, Duke," or something, like the actual amount of like talking that Duke Nukem would need to do, like, he's not a silent protagonist, but he might as well be with the little amount. Like, I don't want Duke Nukem talking the whole time, having whole conversations, but you also don't want him like giving one-liners every 10 seconds because it gets stale. I don't know if there is today, I don't know about you guys, but can you really think of any studio, any media director, like who do you think could take this character and thread this needle? I think a big and this is kind of like my ultimate point here for making this video. I know we've kind of meandered, all the way, 20 miles from the point of this video, and this is the point where I kick you out the side and tell you to walk back. Um, I feel like when it comes to Duke Nukem, there are aspects of him, of his character, of the type of shooter that his game used to be, and how you're going to portray that I think is going to be really difficult. The Doomslayer is supposed to be a force of nature, and they do a pretty interesting job of translating that. Duke Nukem is the hardest part about it, I think, it's not going to be the gunplay. It's not going to be the level design, really. I've played people like Shadow Warrior, Duke Nukem. They've done a great job of showing us, hey, this is how you do level design and traversal and movement of a boomer shooter in the modern day. That's not going to be the difficult thing. It's everything around that gives the feel of a Duke Nukem game. That, like, the worry is that it's just going to feel like 80s action hero Doom, and it's not going to feel like Duke Nukem. I think you're going to need a really, really excellent character writer who has the really difficult task of threading this needle. I can't really think of many video game writers who could do it. I can't even think of many writers, period, who could do it. I think that's a big reason why we haven't gotten a new Duke Nukem. Would be remarkably easy to make a, really good boomer shooter in the line with like the other ones that have come out. It's just, how do you make it feel like Duke? How do you make it feel like a Duke Nukem video game? Like, damn the politics around it, damn like the hyper masculinity, all that stuff. How do you make it feel like Doom in a modern day with the modern way we make boomer shooters? Period. Like, I think the only way you can really do it is you go back down to brass tacks. No cutscenes, no real story outside of like a line of text in the beginning, just up-res, pretty levels, excellent combat, deep, like douchey one-liners, blood, gore, and nudity. Like maybe take a crack at remastering Duke Nukem Forever and remaking it in a new engine. That might be a good first start. That genuinely might be a good first start, because I can't really think of any way where where they can add a characterization in regards to Duke that isn't going to make him come off as cringe in today's day and age. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. Honest to God, I would really like to hear what you guys have to say down in the comments. I know this has been a 14-minute long meandering video, but if you made it to this point, I appreciate you, and I honestly would love to hear what you have to say down in the comments. So let a brother know. I'll catch y'all later. Have a good one.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to talk to me outside of this video, outside of live streams, or just join the community and be a part of it, you can do so at HIMediaTV/Discord. Discord links there. We'd love to have you. And given the financial situation of the economy right now, I know this is a tall ask, but if you have the scratch to spare, please consider donating and becoming a supporter at HIMedia.gg/tip. All of our perks are serviced through our Discord channel, including early access videos, exclusive videos, and more. Your generosity is a blessing, and $1 a month is a boon to my mental health. Thank you so very much for watching. I appreciate you, and have a great day.